Good morning. The January 10th, 2023 meeting of the Board of Estimates is now called to order. The board continues to meet virtually. We'll ask all folks who are joining us today from the public to ensure that all electronic devices are turned off or at a minimum placed on silence so you do not disrupt today's proceedings. For those of you online who are joining us, if there's an opportunity to present or speak to the board, you'll be recognized by the board. At that time, I'll ask that you state your name, the organization that you're calling in from, and then ultimately proceed with your testimony. At this time, I'll ask our clerk for any corrections, additions, and noted abstentions to today's agenda. Madam Clerk?
Yes, good morning. I have the following corrections and abstentions to announce this morning. In the absence of the Honorable Mayor Brandon Scott, Faith Leach, the City Administrator, will sit and vote on his behalf. We have a correction for SB 23-13615, Department of Public Works, Water Contract 1252, Grantley Road and Vicinity Water Main Replacement, Change Order Number 2. In the background explanation, please strike 791 days and insert 810 days. The second correction is SB 23-14681, Department of Human Resources, State's Attorney's Office, Employment Agreement for Shante Eldridge. In the subject line, please strike amendment and replace with renewal. Correction SB 23-14675, Department of Human Resources, amendment is an amendment for Shante Eldridge for the State's Attorney's Office, and it is AGC 6900. Under action requested, please strike with a duration of 80 days, 1/10/2024 to 3/30/24, and insert January 18th, 2023 through January 17th, 2024. There are no protests or statements of oppositions this morning. I have the following withdrawals to announce. SB 23-14836, Office of the Mayor, a travel request for London Smith D. Riccio is being withdrawn by the agency. SB 23-14274, Department of Housing and Community Development, Side Yard Land Disposition Agreement for 531 Lawrence Street is being withdrawn. And SB 23-13337, Procurement, Renewal, Management of Parking Garages, Group 4, Agreement with SB Plus Corporation, doing business as SP Municipal Services, is being withdrawn. The following items are on the non-routine agenda. SB 14870, Baltimore City Fire Department EMS Recruitment and Retention Incentive Program. SB 23-14761, Department of Law Settlement Agreement with GMH Associates of America, Inc. SB 23-14622, Department of Law Settlement Agreement with CSX Transportation, Inc., claim number 2100139171, lost date December 27, 2020. SB 23-13572, Procurement, Unauthorized Procurement, Trimble Water, and SB 23-14781, Procurement, Unauthorized Procurement for Equipment Maintenance, ASGCO, Inc. I have the following abstentions to note. Honorable Mayor Brandon Scott. SB 23-13795, Health Department, Agreement with Johns Hopkins University School of Nursing. SB 23-13763, Health Department, an agreement with Johns Hopkins University School of Medicine. SB 23-12391, Health Department, ratification to agreement with Johns Hopkins University John G. Bartlett, EIS. SB 23-14145, Health Department, agreement with Johns Hopkins University, and SB 23-14755, Department of Transportation, Developers Agreement Number 1828 with the Johns Hopkins University. For the Honorable President Nick Mosby, there are no abstentions. The Honorable Comptroller Bill Henry will abstain on all travel requests and all travel reimbursements. Acting City Solicitor Ebony Thompson is abstaining on SB 23-14790, Department of Law travel requests. And Acting Director of Public Works Richard Luna, SB 23-14629, Department of Human Resources, Employment Contract ECB 934-24 with Amber Nestico, Esquire. Mr. President and members of the board, those are all the edits, corrections, and abstentions this morning. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Madam Clerk. At this time, I'll ask for a motion to approve and adopt the opening statements.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay. The ayes have it. The opening statement has now been adopted. I now would like to direct the board's attention to a memorandum from my office dated January 8th, 2023, identifying matters to be considered as routine agenda items together with any corrections, additions, abstentions, and no votes that have been noted by our amazing clerk. I will entertain at this point a motion to approve all items contained in the routine agenda.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay. The ayes have it. The routine agenda items have been adopted. The first item on non-routine agenda can be found on page 14, SB 23-14870 from the Fire Department. This request is to approve the hiring and retention incentive program for Baltimore City Fire Department EMS employees. On behalf of the Fire Department, we have our chief. Please state your name and title, sir.
Good morning, sir. Chief James Wallace on behalf of the Baltimore City Fire Department. The documents you have before you reflect an incentive bonus that we're offering to current employees, but also a recruitment incentive that we're offering to new recruits. We are, as a department, attempting to position ourselves more favorably on the market, become more competitive, retain the talent that we have right now, but also better position ourselves to recruit more talent into the fire department. The payments themselves will be directed to local 734 members who are assigned to the EMS division of the department, and we are prepared to move forward with this, upon your approval.
Thank you, Mr. Chief. Could you go over the specifics of the program just for the public's knowledge?
Absolutely. So the recruitment, I'll speak to the recruitment portion first. When providers come into the Fire Academy, they will eventually be paid a total of $7,500, but that'll be in two payments. The first payment will be once they successfully complete the Fire Academy. The second payment will be once they are successfully clear of the probationary period. So that will be split amongst two payments. I believe it's $3,750 a payment. The retention bonus, again, is $7,500 for our current providers. That will be divided across three payments across 2 fiscal years. A payment will occur upon approval in January, one in March, and then the final one will be in July.
And why is it so important to do this at this time?
So right now, we're down approximately 80 providers. We are, I'll call it the market, if you will, for emergency medical services providers has become very competitive, both regionally and nationally. We're also very aware of the fact that the pool of candidates has shrunk significantly since the COVID pandemic. So we are trying to better strategically not only reach out and attract people to the city of Baltimore and to the fire department, but also retain the talent that we have right now so that we can begin to stabilize what's been a trend that involves not only a lack of candidates out there, but attrition. We have people retire all the time. So we're trying to get ahead of that curve. We believe this is at least an initial first step that'll be very favorable to not only the department but to the city of Baltimore.
And lastly, does this put us at a competitive advantage, or does this really just put us in a game of fighting for attracting and retaining?
I think this gets us in the game and gets us in the fight. I think we still have work to do to be at a more competitive advantage. Cities comparable in size to us struggle as well, but we don't want to be part of that struggle. We want to be out in front of this. We want to be on the edge. I think this is a very good first step to putting us there, but certainly there's going to be a lot of work that we're going to have to do to not only attract that top-level talent, but to retain them as well.
Thank you, Mr. Chief. At this time, are there any additional questions or concerns from members of the board? Hearing and seeing none, at this time, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
It's been moved and properly seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay. The ayes have it. This item approved. Thank you so much,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Chief. The next item on our routine can be found on page 155. That's SB 2314761, Law Department. This request is to approve an agreement and settlement with GMH Associates of America. On behalf of the Law Department, we have
Good morning, Mr. Council President, Deputy City Solicitor Stephen Salisbury, Mr. Council President, members of the board. We're here today with two different settlement agreements and settlements agreement and releases. The first settlement with GMH Associates, this settlement arises out of a incident that took place in January 26, 2023 at the Back River Wastewater Treatment Plant. A New Jersey-based company named GMH Associates was contracted by the Maryland Environmental Service to rehabilitate two of the clarifier settling tanks. These are like the two of the large circular tanks that you see out at the treatment plants. GMH used several different pieces of large equipment, including a large crane, a skid steer, sprayers, lifts. These are sort of large industrial equipment to do this work. When they finished with the first tank, it was tank 7, they moved the equipment to tank number 2. At that time, DPW brought tank number 7 back online, filling it with wastewater by opening a sluice gate that allowed the wastewater to come back into the tank because the tank had been rehabilitated. However, all parties were unaware that there was a drainage valve that remained open between the two tanks, which allowed the wastewater to flow from the newly rehabilitated tank 7 into the second tank that GMH was going to work on, where all of their equipment had been moved to. The next day, GMH arrived. They found that the tank flooded with their equipment in it, and their equipment had sustained extensive damage. GMH claimed that it had suffered about $278,000 in equipment that needed to be replaced. The question basically in this case is who is ultimately responsible for the damage to GMH's equipment. While the contract between GMH's contract did assign responsibility to GMH for maintaining their equipment and their workplace, there is an exception made for damage that was caused solely by the agents or representatives of MES, which would have been DPW in this instance. And again, the question was basically who is responsible. The city has maintained, that GMH could have taken steps to ensure that the drainage valves between the tanks were closed, or could have removed their equipment overnight. However, given DPW's knowledge of the plant and the risks associated with litigation, we felt it was appropriate to reach a settlement agreement in this case for $97,000, which is a little more than a third of what the damages they had initially claimed. With that, I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you. At this time, are there any questions or concerns from members of the board? Mr. Comptroller, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Good morning.
Morning.
I don't have any concerns with the settlement per se. I think given the situation, I think the Law Department has done a great job of helping us, get through this situation. What I do have is I have questions about how we move forward from an operational perspective. So would you want to tell us who from DPW should come up, or is that something where I ask you for the call of DPW?
Yeah, we have a couple of
Okay.
representatives from DPW here today, and so I'll let them speak to that.
Good morning, I'm Paul Sayan. I'm the Acting Bureau Head for the Bureau of Water and Wastewater.
Good morning. I mean, and it's just a very a simple question. I think I understand what happened enough to ask, was there already some type of standard operating procedure that somebody missed such that this happened? Or does this illustrate the fact that we need to have a checklist or a box on the checklist to cover this type of situation to avoid being in it again in the future?
Yeah, so since 2014, we've had an SOP in place to isolate our PSTs. And we follow that SOP every time we do work. As was previously mentioned, this work was under contract or construction management with a third party. So we were not in charge of that work.
Okay, but going forward, our SOP will be amended or extended or whatever so that somebody either tells the other contractor they need to do this or somebody from DPW does this?
Either we will do it or we will at the very least, share that information with the contractor so it does not happen again.
Okay, that was my real concern. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. President.
Are there any additional questions or concerns for the Law Department or DPW? Hearing, seeing it, none at this time, I will take a motion.
So moved.
It's been moved and probably second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay. The ayes have it. This item is approved. Thank you so much. You're up next. The next item on our routine agenda can be found on page 156, SB 23145566. Law Department, this request is to approve an agreement and settlement with CSX Transportation Incorporated. On behalf of the Law Department, we have.
Thank you, Deputy City Solicitor Stephen Salisbury. So this settlement agreement arises out of an incident that occurred on December 27th, 2020 in the underground Howard Street Tunnel. The tunnel is owned and operated by CSX, and on that date, water and debris flowed into the tunnel from an underground, allegedly from an underground city water main that runs alongside the tunnel. CSX alleged approximately $369,000 in damages from the cleanup of that flood damage. Again, the main question in this settlement is whether the city and DPW had any prior knowledge of any defects in the water main. A review of the DPW service request revealed only one report of a water main break, and that had happened more than a year before. However, this water main, sections of it date back to the 19th century. And while a lot of the water main is made from cast iron, and while that can have a useful working life of over 100 years, we're still dealing with very old infrastructure. With respect to one other key fact was the city and CSX had also conducted a joint inspection in June of 2019 that revealed a leak in the tunnel at Mulberry Street. However, neither the city nor CSX was able to conclusively determine the cause of that leak, so we don't know if that actually was coming from the water main. It could be coming from any number of different sources like erosion, groundwater from heavy rain, et cetera. So the question really is, did the city have notice of a defect with the water main that caused this? While the city maintained that we had no notice, again, if we were to go forward and litigate, these are very expensive cases to litigate. The cost alone of hiring experts to do the work around this would be substantial. We're also dealing with, facts that occurred several years in the past with a lot of folks that aren't necessarily still here. So these are very difficult cases to litigate, and given the costs of the potential exposure with $369,000 in alleged damages, we felt it was appropriate to settle this case before litigation. And so the Law Department is recommending a settlement agreement in the amount of $185,000.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Solicitor. At this time, are there any questions or concerns from members of the board? Mr. Comptroller?
This is just it's not, again, not a concern about the settlement per se, but understanding the circumstances that put us in created the need for the settlement. It does make me wonder if and I'm trying to think of the most tactful way to say this, part of the way the settlement played out was the city was able to describe and explain how difficult it is to get at that main, to do any repair work, even to just do inspections. It's difficult to get at it. But given the fact that it is either approaching at or after its useful lifespan, it does make me wonder if there ought to be a proactive approach being taken by not just the city, but the city working in cooperation with CSX and also the state, because I understand the light rail tracks go above the main on Howard Street, that I think we all should be at some point having a conversation about how do we proactively address the eventual replacement of this main, because it will have to be done. That it's not going to last forever, and I don't think anybody thinks it would be preferable for it to break and then have to repair it all of a sudden, as opposed to a planned replacement. So this was just me taking this opportunity to say publicly, I think we should do that. And our office happy to help or participate and convene whatever can be done. But I think that we definitely need to be having proactive conversations about these types of situations. Probably, I guess, Matt Garbark and the infrastructure crew should be part of that. Actually, they should really be leading that conversation. He said with a straight face on his, and Matt not here to defend himself, but yeah, I just wanted to raise that issue that this is one more case of something where the more you learn about something, the more you realize how much still needs to be done. So I just wanted to raise that, Mr. President. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Comptroller. At this time, are there any additional questions or concerns from members of the board? Hearing and seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and probably second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay. The ayes have it. This item is approved. The next item on non-routine can be found on page 198, SB 23133572, Department of Procurement. On behalf of the Department of Procurement, on behalf of the Department of Public Works, this request is to approve an unauthorized procurement with Trimble Water Data Acquisition Systems. And on behalf of DPW, we have
Paul Cyan, Acting Bureau Head, Bureau of Water and Wastewater. So this was a procurement for Trimble Water Service. It's part of a annual service that we are required to provide for monitoring our flow and pressure monitors, pressure flows at our tanks and reservoirs. So in April of '22, we submitted the justification form for the annual renewal. However, that justification could not be approved in time. So for that reason, it became an unauthorized purchase.
Mr. Bureauhead. What's the dollar amount we're talking about for the record?
Do you have that? $8,664.33.
Thank you so much. At this time, are there any additional questions or concerns from members of the board? Ms. Comptroller?
Thank you, Mr. President. The only question is, do you know why this wasn't just submitted to finance as an emergency procurement at the time?
At the time, we thought we had time to get our procurement through.
No, I mean, at the time that it was done as an unauthorized procurement, instead of doing it as an unauthorized procurement, why it wasn't just submitted to not to procurement, but you can go to the Director of Finance and get a practically immediate emergency authorization.
That I don't know. I have our program manager at the time, Harpreet Singh, who could probably answer that question for you.
So, good morning, everyone. I'm Harpreet Singh. Harpreet Singh.
Okay.
I'm engineer in the asset management office. So we were not aware of this emergency procurement process, but going forward, if any such situation comes up, now we are aware of that, and we'll make sure we do that.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Comptroller. Madam CAO?
Yep. Can we have the Bureau of Procurement to answer a few questions on this item?
Sure.
Thank you.
Good morning, City Administrator Leach, President Mosby, Comptroller Henry, honorable board members, Adam Manny, your Chief Procurement Officer. Yes, ma'am.
Yes. So what was the initial form of procurement that we were using for this?
This originally started as a requisition back on June 2nd of 2022. This is at the time it was put into the old financial system. It was not carried from the old financial system into the new financial system and kind of just got lost in the process. And then it was recognized that we had the outstanding invoices. Since we did not have a PO in place to actually make the payment, it became an unauthorized procurement.
Got it. And what was the total amount of the procurement? Was it more than the 8,600 that's before us?
No.
Okay, so it's 8,600.
Yes, ma'am.
Is there, and this actually probably is for DPW, but is there a reason why we didn't just do this through P-card and request higher authorization to use the P-card for this one?
That I can't answer. I don't know.
Okay. Thank you.
Do you want to bring up DPW?
Sure.
There's a question about the P card from.
Yeah,
Ms.
P-card
Madam
use,
CEO.
given the amount of this item.
We are told by our procurement that anything over 5,000K can't be on the P card. That's why we didn't use it.
Got it. Thank you. And this is just for DPW. We can make sure that we connect after this because we do have the ability to raise the threshold for emergency situations. So, thank you.
Thank you. Good to know.
Is there a threshold for those emergency situations, Madam CEO?
So there's a process by which the Bureau of Procurement and the Bureau of Finance would just approve a one-time increase to your P card in order to make a purchase. So given that this is 8,000 and our limit is 5, then, this would have been considered. It may or may not have been approved, but we should have gone through that process.
Is there a threshold?
The maximum amount?
Yeah, is it 10,000, 15,000, 25,000, 50,000?
Can we get the Bureau of Procurement or Finance to answer that?
The threshold amount on a P card is whatever we determine it to be. That's the advantage of the P card is we control the dollar value of it. We control the number of times it can be used and where it can be used. Theoretically, we can put it up to the entire credit. We can put one P card to the entire credit limit that the city has if we really wanted to. Right now, if I'm correct, the limit is for small dollar purchases under $5,000. And then if something goes above that, it can be a request to increase that limit as a one-time use. Or as we continue along, if it's an ongoing thing, we can look at it.
So if the approval process took place as the Madam CAO described, how would this board know that maybe something of 20,000 or 25,000 was approved?
That is a
not
process
through the
we are
emergency
currently working
process?
on with the procurement transformation.
Okay.
As we're putting it in there to make sure that we can get that information out to the board and to the citizens.
Well, as this board has done work on the emergency process, I'll just ask the administration that any of those approvals, until that process is put in place, that at least the board is notified of it, because it'll be outside of the purview of the emergency process.
Yes, sir. We're very strict about that.
Yeah. Madam, you good? Ms. Comptroller?
Yes, just a bit of a clarification. If the P card threshold was raised on an emergency basis, on an emergency one-time basis, to any number below the threshold to bring an item to BOE, then we wouldn't necessarily need that information shared because agencies are spending that level of money all the time without telling us. The issue is if the P card threshold is being raised on a one-time basis above the $25,000 level, that's when you trigger the president's concerns. My question is, at the point where you're now talking about something that is big enough to come to the Board of Estimates, would that not automatically trigger the emergency procurement process as a way of paying for something right away instead of the P card, because if it's an emergency and it's over the threshold to come to the board, then you can just have finance approve that and do an EFT, which would be just as immediate as using the P card. And we already have a process in place where the board is being notified when the emergency procurement process is triggered. I say that to say, if you're working on how you want to deal with this with the P card, maybe you just follow that same process where we have now a way in Workday to automatically notify the council president and the comptroller whenever that is used. So you could just mirror that for any P card usage over
Yes,
the
sir, that
threshold limit.
absolutely
Okay,
can be done.
thank you.
Madam CEO?
Yep. And I do want to clarify that there currently, if there are emergency procurement requests that are small dollar amounts, oftentimes agencies are paying for them through their P card, and so it's still coming through the emergency process. I do, though, believe that we may need to put some protocols in place and to standardize this across the enterprise so that the P card purchases over $25,000 or whatever the threshold is still come to the board, even if they aren't routed through the emergency process. Because some agencies may request that one-time increase, but they don't view it as an emergency. It's just a one-time request.
Mr. Comptroller?
Yeah, and just, that makes perfect sense. I'm going to take one moment to do, for the first time this year, a reminder that we still have to figure out how to, even if it's retroactively, integrate P card purposes into the data that accounts payable has on what has been paid out to who, so that we have a full and accurate accounting of who has been paid.
Thank you so much. If there are any additional questions or concerns for procurement or DPW at this time, I will take a motion.
So moved.
It's been moved and probably second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay. The ayes have it. This item has been approved. The next item on non-routine agenda can be found on page 199, SB 23144781, Department of Procurement on behalf of Department of Public Works. This request is to approve an unauthorized procurement to ASGCO. On behalf of DPW, we have
Paul Cyan, Acting Bureau Head, Bureau of Water and Wastewater. So this was a procurement for a belt for our centrifuges over at the Back River Treatment Plant. The centrifuges dry our solids. That belt was needed to maintain operation of the centrifuge and was ordered as soon as we found out that the belt needed to be replaced. That belt was procured by an alternative vendor. The vendor that we typically use was 6 to 9 weeks out, so we need that belt much sooner. So we went with this alternative vendor to expedite the delivery. We do have an existing contract with that vendor now to avoid these procurements in the future.
for the record, could you state the dollar amount?
$12,222.
Thank you so much. At this time, are there any questions or concerns from members of the board? Ms. Comptroller, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. President. I actually just wanted to take this opportunity to make it very clear for anybody who's watching this that this is one that was not our fault. This was not DPW's fault in the sense that it is only an unauthorized procurement because after the employee paid for the item with the P card in an authorized fashion, the vendor waited a period of time before processing the payment, and during that time, the employee left and their card was canceled. And so it ended up being an issue, but it was not an issue that DPW created or was responsible for. And I just, when I learned that full story, I felt obliged to make sure that that got out onto the record also. Thank you.
Are there any additional questions or concerns from members of the board for DPW? At this time, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
It's been moved and probably second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay. The ayes have it. This item's approved. There's no new business before the desk of the Board of Estimates. This will adjourn today's meeting. Our next regularly scheduled meeting of the Board of Estimates will occur on Wednesday, January the 24th, 2024 at 9 a.m. I'd like to thank everyone for tuning in and joining us today. Baltimore, we absolutely love you.
Hello, Term TV. We're ready to begin. Super. Good afternoon, everyone, for the first, and welcome to the first bid opening of 2024. I'm filling in for the clerk, Celeste Amato, today. To my left, I have Miss Audrey Quarles. In front of me, I also have my colleagues Shalon Scott and Abigail Belena. We'll start off sharing the addenda we've received for the January 10th bid opening. 5 addenda. First addenda for Department of General Services, GS 21825 for 88 State Circle renovations. This was previously due on today, January 10th, but now will be opened on January 24th, 2024. Once again, that's GS 21825. Second, Bureau Procurement, RFQ 000478 for design and construction for conduit and fiber optic cable at multiple locations. This was previously due today, January 10th, but will now be opened on January 24th, 2024. Third, Bureau Procurement, RFQ 000432, police uniforms and tailoring services. This was previously due today, but now will be opened on February 7th, 2024. That's RFQ 000432, which will be opened on February 7th, 2024. Fourth, Bureau Procurement, RFQ 000404, wireless access point installation, maintenance, and repairs. This will now be opened on January 24th, 2024. Once again, that's RFQ 000404 will be opened at the next bid opening on January 24th. Last addenda, Bureau Procurement, RFQ 000476, Evo Cam 2 digital microscope system. This was due to be opened today, but now will be opened on February 7th, 2024. Once again, that's RFQ 000476. Will be opened on February 7th. To get to today's agenda, we are opening 5 bids. I read these all right. Yeah. Okay, first one, Department of General Services, GS 21833, Samuel Morse Community Center roof replacement. Second, Department of Public Works, SC 1007, Jones Fall Sewer Shed Inflow and Infiltration Reduction, Area B. Third, Department of Public Works, WC 1326, SCADA-DCS Water Facility Design. Fourth, Bureau Procurement, RFQ 000461, Sodium Hydroxide Caustic Soda. And last one, Bureau Procurement, RFQ 000156, Hazard Relocation Services. We'll go to the first bid to be open, which is Department of General Services, GS 21833, Samuel Morse Community Center roof replacement. And I'll hand it over to Abigail.
Up first, we have St. Mary's Roofing and Home Improvement, LLC. And that total is 1,394,700.00
With a bid bond.
with a bid bond.
I'll read that back to you. 1,394,700 and 0 cents.
That is correct. Up next, we have Swain Enterprises. That total is 1,114,000.00. And this
bid
also
bond.
has a bid bond.
All right. That total is for Swain Enterprises 1,114,000.
That is correct. Up next, we have Allstate Contractor, Inc., and that total is 1,644,790.00.
With a bid bond.
Yep, with a bid bond.
Allstate Contractor, Inc., 1,644,790.
That is correct. Up next, we have SGK Contracting, Inc., and that total is 1,034,000.00.
Bid bond.
And they have a bid bond as well.
All right. That total is 1,034,000.00 for SGK contracting.
Thanks.
Up next, we have Autumn Contracting, Inc., and that total is 1,079,000.00.
With a bid bond.
Yes, with a bid bond.
All right. Autumn Contracting, Inc., 1,079,000.
Up next, we have Rough Roofing and Sheet Metal, Inc., and that total is 1,275,418.00.
With a bid bond.
Yes, with a bid bond.
All right. Rough Roofing and Sheet Metal, 1,275,418.00.
Our final one is Cole Roofing Company, Inc., and that total is 1,959,000.00.
With a
With
bid
a bid
bond.
bond.
Cole Roofing Co., Inc., 1,959,000. And those are all the bids received for GS 21833, Samuel Morse Community Center roof replacement for the Department of General Services. Moving on to SC 1007 for the Department of Public Works, the Jones Falls Sewer Shed Inflow and Infiltration Reduction, Area B. We have 2 bids received for this one.
That is correct. Up first, we have Spinello.
Spinello Companies.
Yes, Spinello Companies. And that total is 14,783,300.00.
And do you have a bid bond on that that's signed?
Yes, yes, we do. There's a
Thank you.
bid bond.
Well, Spinello Contracting, 14,783,300.
Companies. Okay, who's this? Thank you. Has to do? Yeah, that's the next, right. So, let's see what you have. Okay, so where's the?
Up next, we have Monumental Paving and Excavating, Inc.
Page 242.
And that total is 17,300, 000.00.
All right, Monumental Paving Excavating, 17,300,000.
With the bid bond.
With a bid bond. Got it. And those are the two bids received, for the Department of Public Works, SC 1007, Jones Falls Sewer Shed Inflow and Infiltration Reduction, Area B. Moving on, our next solicitation is for the Department of Public Works, WC 1326, SCADA/DCS Water Facility Design. We have 3 bids to open today.
Up first, we have Alan Myers, MD, Inc. And that total is 15,455,000.00.
Checking for a bid bond, hold on one sec. Yeah, with the bid bond.
There is a bid bond.
With a bid bond.
All right, Alan Myers, MD, Inc. The bid amount is 15,455,000 with a bid bond.
Up next, we have American Contracting and Environmental Services, Inc. And that total is 16,216,000.00.
With the bid bond.
With the bid bond.
American Contracting and Environmental Services, Inc., 16,216,000.
Our final bid for this item is the Whiting Turner Contracting Company. That total is 17,896,000.00.
With the bid bond.
With the bid bond.
All right, the Whiting Turner Contracting Company, 17,896,000. And those are all the bids we received for WC 1326, Department of Public Works, SCADA/DCS Water Facility Design.
Okay.
The closed caption is really not liking that one. All right, we're gonna move on to our second to last solicitation to open. Beer procurement, RFQ-000-461, sodium hydroxide caustic soda. We have 4 bids to open today.
Up first, we have Caney Chemical Company, Inc.
Good
And that-
pronunciation.
Q.
And that total is 3,682,596.71.
All right, let's be careful about double checking these. 3,682,596 and 71 cents for Caney, Kuehne Chemical Company, Inc.
Up next, we have Univar Solutions USA, Inc. That total is 3,393,795.10.
All right. Univar Solutions USA Inc. 3,393,795 and 10 cents.
That is correct.
That's the, okay, great.
Up next, we have Brentag Northeast, Inc. That total is 2,861,371.50.
All right, for Brentag Northeast Inc., 2,861,371 and 50 cents.
That is correct.
Thank you.
And last, we have Allegiance Chemicals LLC. That total is 2,954,047.50.
All right, Allegiance Chemicals LLC, 2,954,047 and 50 cents. And those are all the bids received for RFQ 000461, Bureau of Procurement, sodium hydroxide caustic soda. Next one, last on our list, RFQ 000156, Bureau of Procurement, Hazard Relocation Services. No bids have been received for this one. So once again, RFQ -000156, Hazard Relocation Services, no bids received. That is all we have for our show today, folks. All right, nothing else?
Next bid date.
Oh, our next bid opening, January 24th, 2024. Same place, same time. Different host, probably. That's it. Have a good one. These will be posted by the end of business. La la la.